Awesome.
Skyler, thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
For sure, yeah. So my name is Skyler, and I'm currently calling from Hong Kong. But reason because is because I'm currently on a gap year. So I'm an engineering student, but I'm taking a year off to just kind of explore, travel, visit where my part of my family is from. So I'm actually from Canada, from Vancouver. But I'm really interested in space. So some of the things I've been involved with, and I'm still wanting to get involved more. So currently, I'm working volunteering with SETS Canada as the chief recruiting officer. And there's some really amazing projects that they're doing that is really exciting for me to just see behind the scenes. And also last 2 summers ago, I was the Western Canadian delegate for this program called Global Space School. It's for the Foundation for International Space Education. And so we're supposed to go to Houston to do a project, but it went online instead. And so I was able to meet so many people from all different countries around the world, from Isle of Man to Russia to Chile to India. It was just a really global experience, even New Zealand. And so it was just really awesome just seeing how space kind of brings people together. It doesn't really matter where we're from, who we are, what background we have. It's a really uniting topic. So that's why I really like it.
I agree. So you mentioned SEDS Canada. You had
Yeah.
some interesting projects you were working on. Could you talk a little bit about them?
For sure, yeah. So SEDS does a lot of cool stuff. So I'm not like super involved in all of them yet. Hopefully in the future. So one of them that I do know that is up and going now is the Can X project, which is actually funny because I heard about this project through Roxy, who shared it through our SEDS Can Discord. But basically, they're trying to organize Canada's first Arctic expedition in the intersection of space science with Arctic research. And so there's been a competition, a few university teams were selected, and they're basically working towards securing some funding. So that's what we're working on right now. There's some other research grants that they're working on as well. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of different elements to it. There's also a conference. There's also Can SBX, the Stratospheric Balloon Project. There's also the Can Air RGX project, which is the reduced gravity one. So there's like a lot of different things going on. Yeah.
And did I understand correctly? You're talking about an Arctic expedition?
Yes. Yeah.
So this would be to the North Pole.
Yeah. Well, none of it. So not exactly North Pole, but yeah, close to that area. Yeah.
And can you talk about how that relates to space?
Yeah. So let's see. There's some of the projects they're related in the sense that, well, I mean, I think just part of the process in itself is related in the sense that, going to the Arctic, living, in that sort of environment, it's definitely not like anywhere else on Earth. I assume I've never gone, so I have no idea, of course. So I can't really speak on that, but I think it's sort of like an astronaut analog mission. We can think of that. So I think just the experience that people will get for going through that process will be something very unique, and it'll be pretty cool, in the future if those people choose to become, apply to be astronauts or, want to put themselves in the next level of an extreme environment. So yeah, actually, if you don't wouldn't mind, I actually do have a question for you. I'm very interested in how you were able to sort of be consistent with interviewing people all the time and how like you got the project up and running. Yeah.
Yeah, so several thoughts. One is, first of all, commitment. You
Wow.
know, in that, like Yoda said, do or do not, there is no try.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
but then also a little bit of pre-planning.
Mhm.
So like there's three of my family members that live with me I haven't interviewed. So they're like my
Wow.
backup days. So if I ever get like really in a bad spot, I can interview them and still count that as a day. So
Right.
um,
Wow.
yeah, COVID had an interesting effect. My original plan was to do all these interviews in person, impromptu
Mhm.
with strangers. So not all strangers. I also interviewed a lot of friends too, but kind of meeting people at Starbucks and saying, "Hey, can I
Yeah,
get your thoughts on space?" Um, but then with the COVID lockdowns, going up to people at Starbucks probably is not the best idea.
I see. That's totally fair. Yeah.
So
So,
then I had to do the online thing, and then once you have the
mhm,
online thing, then you can start scheduling ahead, and then that makes it a lot
right.
easier.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the Starbucks thing. I was when I went for your project, it was pretty kind of inspiring because for me, like just being in a new city here, like I was actually thinking of I've been doing that a little bit with some random people I meet outside, but it would be a cool project to just interview people, in random cafes and just get a certain opinion about a certain topic. I was gonna do that for their music taste and make a playlist of all their songs.
Oh, that'd
But
be awesome.
yeah, sorry, that's an aside. That's really cool.
No, I think that's really good. I've been surprised though. There's a lot of people that don't want to be filmed.
Mm,
The moment you pull out the video, they're like, "Oh, no, 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 not interested," or "Can we
yeah.
do audio only?" Or
Mm,
so there's definitely here in the U.S. There's definitely a significant number of people who just don't feel comfortable being videotaped. How is it in Hong Kong?
yeah, so I have to say, I know that in some like for example, when I got to the airport, oh that's the other thing. I was quarantined. So initially yeah, we did like a 2 week quarantine and but going into the airport, I was just vlogging a little bit just with iPhone and I was told I can't film certain parts. So there are a little bit strict there. But I'd say the people are yeah, they're really awesome here. It's been great. Yeah. So
Um, so like the musical taste, if you
mhm,
were to do that in Hong Kong, what do
yeah.
you think the results would be? I mean, do you have any hypothesis?
Yeah. Yeah, so it was so random, like, I can actually talk about an experience. So I was just looking for a gym, right? Like just really randomly. And I was calling a few, I went for a free trial. I walked in and I had the most unexpected deep conversation for about like 2 to 3 hours with the clerk. We just like sat in the office and he was also a student. So we just talked about, how life is different in Hong Kong versus Canada. He also studied abroad. And then like we were just talking about like all sorts of things and I realized that this is a great opportunity. Like 2 hours in I was like, yo, let me just like pull up my phone and we just started talking and I interviewed him kind of like on the spot. And that was like my first entry into like the playlist sector. So far the people I've met, they've actually leaned very classical. But I think my expectation would be just a big diversity of things like in the MTR. So there's like a big, like it's like the SkyTrain station. There's like tons of people. I just like take a few moments to just observe around, and I noticed that a good amount of people on their phones are listening to like Western music. So there's a big variety. Yeah,
Well, yeah, and of course, the reason to do it would be to be surprised to find out something you didn't
yeah,
know. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I think it'll be a fun thing, maybe.
it could be. It could be. Yeah. No, if you do that, let me know. I'd love to see the results.
For sure. It's just a for fun thing. Like it's not planned. And actually, talking about surprises, what were some of the things that you were most surprised about during your whole process of interviewing people?
Yeah, earlier on, I interviewed a friend, and I was like, "Hey, what do you think about us going back to the moon?" And
Right.
her response was, "We spoiled the Earth. Why should we spoil the moon too?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
I just having trouble like relating to the idea of pollution without life to pollute. Always think of pollution as being
Yeah.
somehow life impacting. So if there's no
Hmm.
life on the moon, is it possible to pollute the moon? It's like that
Right.
type of thing. So, but I thought that was surprising. The other thing is, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about the space program.
Interesting.
And kind of, its status has it been shut down? Is NASA being secretive? Um, some people even thought that astronauts go to the moon today. Like the idea of just going to low Earth orbit is not a intuitively um, easy one to like. low Earth orbit is essentially going nowhere. I mean, like you're just like hovering above the Earth,
Mhm.
um, and so that's bad. And I was talking to this one high schooler, and I was
Oh, I
mentioning
see.
that she's like, so why are they going to the moon? Or, uh, it's like they're going to be sending the first woman and the next man, and it felt like she interpreted it as being like a dating show. you know?
That would be pretty cool. That would be a first for sure if they did that on the moon.
Yeah, yeah, uh,
Yeah.
and until the proposal, they're not, they can't come back or something. I don't know. Be like some type of challenge, some type of
That,
astronaut,
that's new.
um, bachelor or bachelorette type of episode. So since then, I had to be really careful with how I talk about the first woman and the next man, because I mean,
Yes.
that does kind of lend itself to that. But I've been really surprised by how generous most people are. Complete strangers willing to talk to you, and also
Wow.
people are very smart. But I think the problem is that they're being asked the wrong questions. Instead of being
Mm,
asked about what's the future of humanity and how can we have a better world and society, they're being asked, what's your long distance plan? Um, which cell phone provider you're in. You need to vote for this politician. These types of things, very narrowly focused type stuff, which
yeah.
but if you talk to people and are like, what do you think of humanity in 500 years from now? They're kind of concerned about humanity in 5 years from now, but that's
That's a fair concern. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. That I think just like listening to, those experiences, like it must be kind of like not a struggle, but like a challenge to keep an open mind, especially when people have beliefs that might go against yours. So how have you managed to do that? That must be an interesting kind of learning thing.
yeah. Um, I think the key thing is to remain curious. I mean, here is a person who is intelligent, and they've arrived at a completely different viewpoint than I have.
Hmm.
So either they have a different set of experiences than I do, a different set of facts, a different way of processing them. And it's kind of interesting, and maybe they're better, maybe they have some better experiences, better facts, a better way of processing it. So there's a real opportunity for growth and learning. um, uh, I did talk to two people who didn't think we made it to the moon the first time. Whenever I asked, hey, what do you think about us going back to the moon in 2024, his response was, I hope we make it this time.
Hope we make it this time. Yeah.
And so that's like really curious. So like, why do you think that? What makes you think that we didn't make it the first time? What's your, why do you think that? And both of the people talked about the quality of the images that were sent back from the moon. That
Mhm.
seems to um, m- I mean, the thing is, if it was done in a studio, you would expect the quality of images to be much better. But that's a
That is a
different
good
story.
point. Yeah, at 4K, except they didn't have that back then.
Exactly. Yeah. Uh, yeah. It wouldn't be 4K. It'd just be four.
Just four.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe two if we're generous.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah.
So
Wow.
so that's been that. The thing though is, since I've been scheduling these online as opposed to
Mhm.
just going out to random people, um uh that kind of creates a little sampling bias, because you're more likely to get people already pro space online,
Mm,
kind of. But
that's
I did
fair.
have an interesting impromptu conversation on Saturday at a
Mm.
restaurant that I was at. It was actually right by the Johnson Space Center down there in Clear Lake.
Oh,
It was at a restaurant there.
awesome.
And I was like, what do you think about us? I think the question was, I was safe and affordable, would you go to space? He's like, well, I don't think I'll ever be a billionaire, so I don't think I get a chance to go to space. And I was like, well, did you know
Mm.
you could become like an astronaut working for NASA and go to space that way? He's like, no, I didn't know that. So it was kind
Oh,
of,
what?
yeah,
Wow.
I
That's a
know.
reverse. Yeah.
And this
How
is
did that
somebody
go?
that's working at a restaurant right next to
To the
Johnson Space Center.
JC.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's actually really interesting because I was actually thinking, because it was pretty funny. So basically, when I came here in Hong Kong, there's Hong Kong FinTech Week, and it was just kind of like, oh, might as well go check it out. Like some of the satellite events, it was just like completely a domain that's not really something that I like explored. But then going to those events, I started thinking like there's a lot of talk about Web 3.0, blockchain, and so I started thinking about like use cases of space. Just like a TLDR thing I thought about was like, I'm sure tons of people would want to go to space, but what if there's a way where we can like, maybe you can pitch in like $10 or $20, like everyone pitches the same amount into a pool, right? Because not everyone can afford like a $250,000 like 11-minute joyride, right? And then like we can pull that into, I don't know, just that, and then like maybe in that process people can submit their profiles, try to advocate for themselves why they should deserve this spot, and then like people, there's an upvoting, like a voting system, and like the best profiles kind of rise to the top, and then maybe the one that has the most collective votes gets to go. And so it's like more decided by the people who care about this, if you, not just based on if you're ultra rich or if you're selected by a space agency. So I don't know if that would be it. That's just a random idea that I had.
Yeah, I guess how would you do the voting piece? I mean, have you and I guess how would you do the campaigning and the like how would you moderate it? Any thoughts on that?
That is good. This is like a brainstorming session now. I guess how would I moderate it? I mean, I was exploring like using smart contracts and like coding those up to like, how like based on certain conditions, certain things would happen. So like if not everyone pulls in, if it doesn't hit like whatever minimum amount we would need to secure the ticket, then the funds would get released back to the original accounts. But I guess for voting and moderating that, maybe it will be coded into that smart contract, or I might have to be manually. Maybe we'll have it. The other thing is like I didn't think about it if it would be more of like just a project or if it's a business model or anything. It was just more like a fun thing on the side. But yeah, I'm not too sure actually.
Yeah, I
But
was just thinking, you could start with something simpler, like maybe one of those zero G flights. They're like
mm,
$7,000.
yeah,
So you get people putting $5 each. You only need what 1,400 people, I think,
mm,
to cover the cost of that.
yeah,
And then once you kind of like develop some and get the kinks worked out at the $7,000 level, then you could like
yeah.
scale it up to
That's a
uh,
good point, right?
something higher. Um, but how do you keep it from just being an outright popularity contest, or
Mm,
having like the top two people just sniping at each other, just trying
yeah,
to.
that's a good point. um, then again, it's like then you can go through the whole debate on like which voting process do we go through, right? And then that gets complicated. How do we select those? I mean, I was thinking it would definitely be, yeah, how would not be a popularity contest? I know maybe something similar to Dear Moon, but not really sure. Like I was thinking of just like I was just imagining in my head like the UI to be something like kind of like Reddit, where like just posts get floated up, bubbled up, and when they get upvoted. But maybe some sort of prerequisites or some sort of like because yeah, that's true. Some things like I remember there's this meme where it's like there's like a cat or a dog drawing, and then the one that gets the most votes is just like just a phony like stick drawing of a dog, and the second place one is like an actual really nice drawing of a dog. And it's like life isn't fair as the caption. So we want to make it merit based, I guess. That's tough. I'm not sure. There's many ways to do it. I mean, it could be assigning points automatically to certain things, and maybe, but then like that kind of like if it's algorithmic or if it's based on the a code, certain system, then it's not decided by the people. But then again, if it's decided by the people, then it could turn into a popularity contest. Mm, unless in the sense that you don't see the upvotes live and you only get the voting session like a certain time. Kind of like, yeah, I don't know. There's many different ways to look at it, I guess.
Well, and then the other side is if it's not transparent, people have to believe the winner is the winner, and was
True.
so you don't want to be like everybody's at the same level, and then now we're gonna announce who the winner is. Oh, and that just
Ex-
happens to be my
Yeah,
friend's friend, you know.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, transparency. I feel like there's a way we can use like blockchain to make it transparent. Like I'm not I don't exactly know how architecture would work, but um there must be a way to, because yeah, then it's like where people have to put trust into, whoever's organizing it, but we want to make it trustless, I guess, um this is good, this is good stuff. Not really
But
sure.
what you described is kind of what really happens with like NASA. Everybody puts money into it, then they go out and have candidates, and then they select
Mm,
an astronaut um, somehow.
yeah, except this would be more of like just like by the people, but I don't know. Yeah, that's like, it is, yeah, it is essentially the same process. Like in the end, we strap it down to the bones, right? Yeah,
But
it's a good
you know,
point.
the thing is, if everybody's motivated by I want to go, and I can't go normally, I mean, how you really want a system where the losers are happy. you know
Yeah,
how do you create
true.
such a system where the people that don't get to go on the ride are going, yeah, way to go, I'm so excited.
Yeah, or then yeah, then you have to align incentives, or like, I mean, in a sense, maybe. mm, these are all good things. Like maybe if people, like, I know there was a project where they like, then again, it's just a joyride. Like I know there's a project where your like name gets sent, or like they're gonna like put it in capsule or put videos or something, or quotes or memories. I feel like that's not really, there's not much utility in it though. I mean, it is a very nice thing. Like if it includes like, I don't know, like a giant like postcard or something like that with all the names on it. Not too sure though. But then it's like kind of it, yeah, this there, yeah, this is good. Not really, this is good. It's making me like think more about it. Mm, like it needs to be, I also feel like this must have been like done before. Like it feels really cheap or easy to just make it, because it feels like a raffle, but just like a little bit more refined, you know.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is, what is the benefit of this over a raffle? I mean, a raffle, people understand. I'm buying, one millionth of a chance to win, and the
Yeah.
selection process is completely random. So it's like it feels cheap, fair, transparent, and familiar.
I think the difference would be like people, I'm if people don't really like the idea that, they only have, I feel like people might enjoy the idea that they have like a little bit more control over like their chances, in the sense that they can put more effort into maybe like whatever, if it is going to be like a blurb or something, and you kind of have to sell yourself in like 100 words or 50 words or something why you deserve to go, then that might be that might be one reason. Also with the raffle, it still is putting leverage to, or trusting whoever is organizing that raffle to not like rig it. So yeah.
Well, there has to be some entity that actually kind of purchases the ticket and transfers it over to the winner. I don't know how you get away from that.
Right. I'm not too sure. Yeah, I mean, I know there is like, again, I'm still exploring this space with like writing smart contracts, but I'm pretty sure like there is a way where on certain conditions, like maybe if it's like if it's a forum or whatever platform this upvoting process is going to happen, if we do pursue the upvoting process, then once like the time hits, like the voting time ends, and whoever has the most votes would like, based on that condition, like if this person gets this, then it will trigger the set of events where the ticket will be like purchased, and then the ticket will be sent to this person, or a ticket will be purchased for this person with the collective funds of everyone. If, and then there's maybe other conditions like if it just they don't reach the certain like $7,000 or however many, then the funds will be just distributed back to their original owners. And then like if it's a tie, then that's another thing. I'm not too sure. Yeah.
I mean, the tie, I guess, could be a random coin toss or something.
Yeah.
You know.
That could also be programmed into it too, right? Yeah.
So the question is, about what people would work at, what the effort is, and one obvious thing I think is, obviously, if people are bringing in other people, then that helps you reach your goal quicker. They're doing the marketing,
Mm,
and so you almost maybe have a system where each person you
exactly.
bring in, maybe you get so many points for that, or you get some proportion of their votes, and so then people are incentivized to bring in so
Right.
many people.
Right. Because that's the hard part, right? I feel like who's gonna like, we need enough people to build traction, right? So yeah, that would be a cool way to do kickbacks. Like if you get a referral code and just like whoever signs up with it gets like you get like one extra point, but does that become like I don't know. I guess that does work, maybe. Not
Yeah,
really,
because
not really, yeah.
if I'm able to convince 1,000 people to sign
Yeah,
up, I mean, I've already gotten you 3/4 of the way there,
that
to
is
the
true.
total price. But then if one of them gets, a few hundred, yeah, it's kind of, and you don't have to market at all because, they're like incentivized to go out and
Yeah.
get their people. They're like, hey, sign up for this. Yeah, it'd be great. Oh yeah, I'm sure you'll have a chance to get it.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. That would be pretty cool to run. I mean, has this? I swear this must have been done before. Like there must be some sort of system that exists out there for this. Because I was literally just thinking of it like yesterday or like a few days ago. Has anyone out of the people that you've interviewed, like has this sort of like been a topic where people want to, is this something that people want? Like they would be fine with just putting like $5 into like a
But
pool.
as so, I mean, I do ask people, if it was safe and affordable, would you go to space? I've gotten
Mm,
really interesting answers there. Of course, people who are
interesting.
claustrophobic, scared of heights, scared of flying. Those people obviously don't want to go to space. But it's been really surprising who those people are. I interviewed a mother-daughter, and the mother is like, "Yeah, absolutely," and the daughter is like, "No, I don't think so." And the mom was like really shocked. It's like, "Wow, I can't
Wow.
believe I didn't know this about you," So that was kind of neat. But in terms of how they would get there, always has been the affordability side. Bringing down the price so that you could save up
Yeah.
for it and get it.
Yeah. That's interesting then. Then maybe there is some sort of interest for that. I mean, then again, it does include some friction in the sign up process if it is merit based, because then they would have to kind of like fill out a profile or to sell themselves, unless if it's only like 20 words for like 50 words, like yeah. And then, but then it's like, then when they get into the forum, then they would need to see everybody else, and then it would be kind of like an Instagram feed, I guess. I'm not really sure if there's a better way. Just,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
there's like several aspects here. Is the first part is, how do you convince people to pool their assets, knowing that
Mm,
they may not be the direct beneficiary of those pools
mm,
assets. I mean, if the people on my
right,
street like pool their assets to improve the quality of the street, obviously that helps us all. So there's like an incentive there, but kind of pulling all of our assets so that one of us might be able to take a good vacation is a little
right.
bit harder sell to do. They're like,
Yeah,
I think I'd rather just go get a better hamburger, than to than to take my limited resources, put them in a pool, potentially
right.
not get anything just to see you go off and come back and brag about how great your experience was.
Mm, that is a good point. Unless, yeah, I mean, I'm just like, there really is no, I think inherently there is no, say, benefit of, because yeah, one person's in, you can only send one, there's no way to get around the physics. We can't just launch 4,000 people into space at the same time. So it's like
Or can you?
maybe
I mean, maybe that's the problem that we should be really solving, right? How do you?
maybe in the metaverse.
But no, seriously though, look at Starship. I mean, with a completely reusable rocket
That's a
capable of
good, yeah.
launching 100 people at a time, doing 3 flights a day, being able to go from Hong Kong to Houston, Texas in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and on that flight, equivalent to a first class airline ticket, and you get to be suborbital for part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. That's exactly kind of what gets me, like this is like it's like some days it's like, some things in this world, it's just like, doesn't always go your way, right? But then like you kind of realize that we were just so lucky to be born like in this time, right? Like in 21st century, not like 100 years ago, not 100 years later when maybe the breakthrough already happened, where we can choose to go like, take the steps necessary to go multiplanetary, right? That is like, because it's like everything we've ever known, all the big achievements or titles or that people talk about, it's all been confined in like the Earth Moon system. So it's gonna be like such a world opening, literally, step to head to Mars eventually. Yeah.
This whole psychology and incentives and mechanism of pulling resources and
Yeah.
then rationing what you give out. Um, it may not seem directly connected, but in my mind, I was thinking insurance. Um, I mean, this is kind
Insurance.
of like the idea that you're going to be giving up some of your money so that if something bad happens to you, you get to take money out of the pool to cover it.
Right.
You kind of hope that nothing bad happens to you. But at the same token, you feel like you're wasting that money if nothing bad does happen to you. You're just
Yes.
giving up your resources to
Yeah.
bad drivers and people who do dangerous things in their homes and causes them to burn down. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. That
why,
is a
why
good point.
why are
Hmm.
we giving money to those people? I just
Yeah. Hmm. Then I guess in this case, it's not like hoping for a bad thing. I guess it's a good thing. And I mean, if people do have that, I don't know, $5 if they're okay with that. And I mean, it is, it is, I feel like people who, because it's like the people whoever gets voted, based on like their pitch. I mean, if they're not necessarily a bad person, I guess if it's, because then yeah, it is a little bit different from insurance. I guess in the sense that the actual actors in the game or the players in the game are are I don't know, maybe from a little bit different backgrounds. I also feel like it probably will be self-selective, maybe, because people would actually, maybe the initial people, maybe not so, because it's kind of word of mouth. And then after that, if it's online, then it will be self-selected, kind of like how finding your website was self-selective as well. Um, yeah, I'm not too sure. Yeah,
have you ever heard of Copenhagen suborbitals?
nope, haven't. I'll take a look. Yeah.
So it's a group of people. I think they're in Sweden. Um, but basically, they are working on creating their own suborbital rocket to launch themselves.
Oh
And
wow,
to
for sure, crowdfunded.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So you know, as long as they live, and as long as there's no huge property damage, even if they lost and they didn't actually get suborbital,
right.
I mean, they've learned about how to organize people, build a rocket, launch a rocket,
Wow.
everything like that. I just I just feel like that if we had as much thinking about the actual engineering and science as we do on the fintech side,
That is a good point. Yes.
nobody would be, we'd be like, how do we fill all these empty seats? It's like it would it would increase the amount of capabilities so much. So
Yeah. I think, yeah, there's probably, maybe I guess the part of the reason why there isn't that much, maybe research into aerospace as we'd like it is, I don't know, there's probably a bunch, maybe
Let's see. Is it
like
my
there's
side?
just many things like as a student, it's like,
Oh, and sorry, you
oh,
froze there for a second. So I
oh
lost
okay.
the last maybe 30, 40 seconds.
Oh yeah, no worries. I was just saying that I feel like maybe part of the reason why, because yeah, if we can like put so much more resources into aerospace, we would think that we would be maybe on Mars by now. All right, who knows, right? But it's like maybe there's probably a few reasons. I feel like one of them is just like in friction for maybe just newcomers or talent or just other like more people entering the industry. In the sense that for some people maybe they think a little bit of imposter syndrome, maybe a little bit of not really like they're not really sure where to start, and then also I think regulations, especially like ITAR, for example. Like I mean, I'm Canadian, right? So it bogs a lot of us down. So
Well,
yeah,
only as much as you wanted to. I think whenever you see Rocket Labs from New Zealand, being like the second private company to actually be able to put things into orbit, and you realize, I mean, how do you compare the economy of New Zealand to Canada? Like, which one do you think is bigger?
that yes, that is a good point. That is a very valid point. Yeah, that's a good point. What's going on in Canada, right?
Yeah, I think Rocket Labs is like putting everybody to shame. Anybody like Rocket Labs goes to show you it's not because you're not the United States and don't have NASA. It's because you're not choosing to solve the problem. You're
Yeah,
not you're
it
not
is.
choosing to do it.
Mm, yeah, that is a very good point. Like it's like, yeah, I mean, I think they are building a launch. Um, they are building some sort of I think, yeah, launch provider in the East Coast in Canada. But yeah, that's a good New Zealand. Yeah, when you made that comparison, it was like, okay, yeah, shoot, that's a good point.
I mean, I think the economy of Hong Kong may actually be bigger than New Zealand. Like
Yeah,
just the city of Hong Kong.
yeah, and geographically, it's smaller. Yeah, these are yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess yeah. That is pretty inspiring. It's kind of like the whole mindset of, I guess, in a sense, sort of like what Elon Musk is, advocating for first principles thinking. Like, we always assume that we need to be in the States, or we need to be working at NASA, or we need to be working somewhere fancy to do this. But, and there's a lot of people who maybe might discourage, students to like do your own thing because maybe it just won't be successful. Or, all the adages or just sayings about 9 out of 10 businesses fail and all that. But that is a good point. It's kind of like, if you care enough about it, just go out and do it. And maybe, I guess maybe that's what they're thinking. I'm not too sure, but yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, like all these group of people, they get together, they're like, oh, we're really hungry, but we've only made this one tomato. So let us play this really long, complicated game to see who gets to eat the tomato. What they need to be doing is going out there and
Get more
doing more
tomatoes.
farming. Yes.
Simple. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Yeah, and just like kind of like, maybe it's like finding, if the farming system is so only produces, maybe there's like some sort of like limiting factor or something. You just figure out a way to get around that, and now everyone flocks to your side of the farm. You defeat the whole bottleneck right there.
Yeah. Yeah, because what we want to do is have a future of abundance, not scarcity.
Mhm.
And it seems
Yes.
like the whole fintech thing is all about managing scarcity as opposed to
Yeah.
how to create abundance. So I feel like on one side you have science and engineering creating abundance, and on the other side you
Yeah.
have fintech on scarcity is good because it puts more puts more importance in our game of how do we choose who gets the limited resources. It's
Yeah.
like
It's just a race to the bottom game, I guess, in a lot of different ways.
it is. It is. Well, before we run out of time, I did want to ask you
Yeah.
about the moon.
Oh yes. we should get that. Skip to the end. Yeah.
So
Sorry.
when did you find out about Artemis?
Yeah. Wow. When did I find out? I don't exactly remember the day or when. I just remember very clearly, like, yeah, it was like I saw it. There's, it was on YouTube. NASA posted like that whole like animated clip of we're going back to the moon, and I just remember like it was sometime in high school, and I was just like holding my phone. It was like pitch, like it was just dark and just like really close, and I was just like freaking out. Like it was just everything about it, the animation, just like everything about it was so. I was just like so inspired. Like I was like, holy crap, I'm alive right now. We're going back. Holy crap, it's been so long. Like it just kept repeating in my head. For me, it's like when I was, I mean, for Halloweens in elementary school, I would always dress up as an astronaut. It's always been the thing that I wanted to do since I was a kid. And it's really corny. I mean, everyone says they want to be an astronaut. It kind of stopped for the longest time. And who knows if it'll change or if it'll, the whole definition of astronaut might change in the future, right? With privatization. But um, yeah, for me, it was like when I saw that video, it kind of like rekindled that sort of like excitement. For me, it's always been like, it's really it feels like the epitome of like it's like the career that's like just like the best way to kind of like, or you're in the awesome position to just be curious because you're literally on the frontier of discovering new things, like I mean at least physically, and like a lot of like new discoveries in terms of like also just like human understanding, like just all, and then there's like all the philosophy things that can pop up as well. So like I feel like, yeah, back to that. How did I learn about Artemis? Yeah, it was just like, it was just pretty awesome. And I remember listening to that podcast, the Jago podcast, with Johnny Kim, um, and that was pretty inspiring as well. His story, like that was pretty awesome. Yeah.
About about how well do you think it's known that we're going back to the moon? You think most people
Ooh.
know about it, 50-50, or few people know about it?
I'd say not no more than 50%. I would say across the world, I'm guessing maybe 20%, 30%. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think my experience has been probably about 20% no, but
Mm.
it's hard to say because most of my in-person interviews were done between 2019 and March of 2020. And then since then, it's been pretty much online. And, a lot of people say, I didn't know until you told me. So I hear that a lot.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And do you find that ratio to sort of like shift once you went online?
I mean, it definitely shifted once I started interviewing space people.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but what do you hope we get out of going to the moon? Like, what would make it worth the while for you?
Whew, that's a lot. The first thing that comes to mind is being able to prove to the world that we can sustain a healthy presence on the moon and coexist with whatever environment is there. I think that's a very important step for multiple reasons, but the first one that does come to mind is so that we can continue with sort of our odyssey towards Mars. You know, it really is the first, at least in my view, I see it as a really crucial first step in terms of proving it to the world. What else do we get out of it? I mean, there's just like a ton of research. There's like a ton of like pilot projects that we can run in like just the environment with, just really low, it just the environment and like low gravity. And like, I think ultimately it shouldn't like we can't stay on the moon. Like it's not like the final destination towards the solar system. So really the most important part, I think I mean, there's got to be like all sorts of important parts that I obviously don't know anything at all yet. But I think the crucial part is just really showing the world, like on with multiple occasions and with enough evidence that, yeah, like we can put humans there, they're safe, they're we can operate. Like if there's an emergency, we know how to handle that. Oh yeah, we're not ruining the moon too, and we're not like using a huge ton of resources to get there. We have a plan for how we're going to get to Mars. Here's the plan. Here's how we're going to execute it. Like it's just like it just like makes sense as long as it's like a setup that makes sense to continue to Mars. I think that would be a really key step. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that maybe the moon's not such a good first step to going to Mars because it has no atmosphere, the
Mhm.
gravity's less, the systems you'll need in that environment are different than the ones you'll need on Mars. And then other
Mhm.
people are kind of like, well, you get to test things closer to Earth. At least we get some experience on being a different world. Um,
Yeah.
how do you think about that?
Yeah. I've seen like I also think there's like yeah, it's also about like the mechanics of how they're going to get there's a better way to just go directly to Mars instead of like going for the moon. I feel like I mean, of course, it'll be nice. Like in an ideal world, we just think of like just just where we can go. If we can go to Mars, that'll be cool if we can go there first, right? I still think that it just like the moon is. I don't know. I was thinking of it like in a game in a sense. Like level one is Earth, right? Then level two is like it's like Mars, just like a little step above, right? That's the moon, right? And then level three is sort of like Mars. And so I feel like practically speaking, mm, if we go directly to like if we go to the moon, I feel like it's it's also more it just feels like the transition from Earth to Mars won't be as how do I put this? Like it won't be as abrupt, maybe, or it won't be as like strong or sharp. I feel like because we've gone to the moon before and we're going back, and it's like, okay, we're gonna go to Mars after. Like it just kind of gets the ball rolling, gets the momentum going. Um, then again, yeah, it is hard because it does. There are like good reasons for both ways. Um, so like if we go to moon first or we go to Mars instead first. Yeah.
I definitely the benefit about the moon is it's so close. I mean,
Yeah,
3 days
that's
there,
the
3 days back, and you're
yeah.
good to go. Maybe you could actually come back a little faster since the gravity of the Earth is more, and the chances of um, kind of overshooting the Earth are less. But
Mhm.
if it was safe and affordable, would you take a trip to space?
Hell yes. Yeah. Easy answer right there. 100%. I'd be if I had like a oh man, I just remember this is recorded, so maybe if I take well, we'll see. It's okay. If I had a one way, if it was like a one way, you can't go back to Mars. At least for Mars. I don't know about the moon, but for Mars, yeah, I would take it. I'd take it. Yeah.
You would be a Mars colonist,
Yeah, yeah, I'd take it.
part of Elon Musk million-person city.
Yeah, 20 years later, who knows? Might be a different answer, but right now I take it. Yeah.
I get a feeling that probably being on Mars is like 100 times worse than COVID lockdowns, because uh, you're like stuck in this facility. It's
Yeah.
small, cramped. Every time you go out, you have to put on the spacesuit. Is like
Right.
this
But you're
big
part of
deal.
history. You're part
Yeah,
of history. You're literally making history. That's the thing I can't wrap my head around. Like, unless if maybe we were on Mars and then like we destroyed the planet, became Mars, and then we went to Earth, and then of course all these like crazy, but like it's history. I don't know. I'm sure I would if I'm sure people would go crazy in that environment, but it won't be easy, but it will be really amazing, like crazy. Nothing's yeah.
so the thing that really attracts you is not so much Mars itself or the experience itself, but the idea of doing something that's historical.
that and also like I mean it's just like an experience. It's a human experience that like no like I guess yeah nobody's ever done before, but I mean still within our really short lives, like less than 100 years expected. It is still just like I mean it's literally out of this world, but it is like we don't know anything. It's just full, well, not fully surprises, but you know. But yeah, I think a big amount is just like the historical piece. um it really is just like it. I don't know how you describe it. Like it might not even be historical. Like it could be a fork in the road that we're starting. Who knows? Yeah,
Uh, well, yeah, I'm really hoping it is a positive thing, and I definitely look forward to it. Seeing it happen. I'm not so sure I want to be a part of that initial city. Maybe I'd like to see them build it out a little bit. But even
that's fair.
Gwen Shotwell, the CEO of
Yeah, space.
SpaceX,
Yes,
she says she is not interested in going to Mars because she says it's like camping. She doesn't like camping.
that's
But
fair.
so I thought it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear it from that type of level. Yeah.
But she doesn't
Wow.
mind building the rocket to get you there. So
Yeah, it is interesting how people wear different hats, but then like they also have different beliefs and different foresights into the future. Yeah,
well,
but
that's pretty much all the questions I had. But is there anything else you wanted to discuss, or any questions you had?
yeah, I guess like you know wow, over 1,000 people. I just that is consistency to the next level. Like,
But only 700 interviews so far because I started at 1840 and now we're at 1141. So I
oh, I
just
see.
did
Nice.
700. So I got a 1140 more to go before I get down
Right.
to my into 2024 mark.
Wow. So I guess like if there's one wish that you can have for this project, what would that be?
I think the one wish would be that it gets completed, that I don't miss a day. That would be the
Hmm.
the one wish. But beyond that, I mean, I hope that maybe um, people not yet born, your children living on Mars, working on a high school project to see what it was like,
Right.
before he took those next steps on the moon, would be able to use this as a resource to kind of get an idea on kind of like the struggle we had with trying to understand what the future was like, and should we go back to the moon or not, and just that whole kind of thinking.
Wow. That is pretty deep. It is like, yeah, who knows what, there's so many firsts there, right? First school, first baby born on Mars, first city, passports, the UN. Is it going to be like SSUN, solar system, United Nations? I don't know. Sun.
I know.
Yeah,
Will we have different parts of the solar system that are like colonies of different Earth nations, and
exactly.
we continue on with what we did, or will it be all
That's,
of Earth against the rest of the solar system?
yeah. It's just the beauty is just the imagination. It's just literally the possibilities. It's literally a fresh start. It's just so many things that can happen. Um, that's another exciting piece. Yeah. Yeah, this is I think overall like yeah, this there was a lot of things that I didn't expect to discuss in this um in this conversation, especially like all the that whole crowdfunding space tourism idea. That was just like a really random thing. But yeah, it was a really kind of like I have to think. I'm just like thinking right now in my head, so I'll be definitely thinking more about the things that we talked about today. Yeah,
Yeah, and if you know of anybody else I could talk to, I
for
do
sure.
need to find 1,140 more people.
Yeah, that is. I see when you said like my one wish is to get project. Yeah, yep, that makes sense. That is going to be, yeah, that's going to be fun.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I better let you go, but thank you so
Hmm.
much for talking to me, Skylar.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Nathan. Hopefully you reach that end goal. I'm sure the last interview will be very interesting. You'll have the honor for that.
Yeah, exactly. That would be
Yeah.
interesting. I think that may be my wife.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she,
Hopefully you don't
she'll
run out
be,
of backups.
yeah, exactly that too. Hopefully I don't have to interview her before then. So that'd be good.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely keep my eyes peeled. And but yeah, it's been awesome. It's been a blast, and we'll catch up later. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, have a good
Thanks,
rest of your
Nathan.
evening. Bye bye.
Yeah. Take care.